Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This video is talking about present perfect. In this English grammar lesson, I'm going to show you how to form a present perfect and when to use present perfect tense. But before we get started, it's good to know how to conjugate the verb to have. For the singular forms, I have, you have, he has, she has, it has. And for the plural forms, we have, you have, they have. It's also good to know that in English language there are regular and irregular verbs, and it's advisable that you study the most commonly used irregular verbs. Now let's get started. Take a look at these sentences. I have painted the door yellow. They have paid for dinner themselves. Both the sentences are in the present perfect tense. How to form a present perfect tense? Let's have a look at the regular verbs. For the regular verbs, we use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle. You can make the past participle by adding ed to the infinitive form of the verb. Now, let's have a look at the singular form. I have worked there. You have listened carefully. He has cleared the table. She has placed it on the floor. It has no. For the plural forms, we have walked to school. You have watched the tennis match, and they have marked the test. Now we need to pay extra attention to verbs that end in an e, such as live, close, and wipe. For these verbs, we use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle, but the past participle is made by simply adding ad to the verb. Look at the examples. I have lived here for quite some time now. He has closed the window. They have wiped the floor. We also need to pay attention to verbs that end in a y, especially those preceded by consonants such as spy and study, because we change the y into an I. For example, he has spied on his neighbors. We have studied hard. Now let's have a look at the irregular verbs. For the irregular verbs, we also use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle. But for the irregular verbs, the past participle has a unique present perfect form. Take a look at the examples. I have built the shed with the own two hands. The infinitive form of the verb is to build. She has bought some flowers at the market. The infinitive form of the verb is to buy. We have run the marathon. The infinitive form of the verb is to run. Now let's have a look at the present perfect tense in question. First, for the regular verbs, again we use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle. Has you talked to him yet? Have you kicked the ball? Have they ever walked on a farm? For the irregular verbs, we also use the auxiliary verb to have and the past participle, but now the unique present perfect tense form. For example, has she quit her job yet? Have you ever driven a car? Have they ever paid for dinner? Let's have a look at the present perfect tense in negation. For irregular verbs, the auxiliary verb to have and we add not, contracting into haven't or hasn't and the past participle. I haven't listened to the news. It hasn't rained since Friday. They haven't closed the window. For the irregular verbs, we also use the verb to have and not contracting it into haven't and hasn't and the past participle. For example, she hasn't quit her job. The infinitive form is to quit. You haven't ever driven a car. The infinitive form is to drive. They haven't paid for dinner. The infinitive form of the verb is to pay. Let's have a look at the present perfect tense in use. We use the present perfect tense for things that happened in the past, but it's not important when they happened. I have been to Scotland. It's not important when I've been there. It's important that I've been to Scotland. They've decided to buy a car. It's not important when they decided it. The decision alone is important. We also use the present perfect tense for things that start in the past that have continued in the present. And for example, Bob and Jack have known each other for ages. For example, they met in the 1970s and they are still friends. They have lived there since 2011. So they moved there in 2011 and they've continued to live there. We also use the present perfect tense when the following words are in a sentence. For, yet, never, ever, just, already, since. Here are some examples. I have lived here for 3 years. We haven't seen that film yet. Have you ever watched for a good football game? Okay, guys. Thank you for your watching. I'm sorry for my mistake. I'm still learning and thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.